Hi, everyone. I am Crystal Strossner, and this is the 40 Dandelions podcast. I'm a contributor to 40 Dandelions, and today we're starting out the podcast with an interview with Callie Goode. She is the executive assistant to 40 Dandelions creator, Carrie Strimmel. And we are interviewing her. She's a very interesting person with a very interesting life, and we'd like to feature our contributors and assistants and everybody who's a part of 40 Dandelions. So we're starting out this podcast series with Callie. Welcome, Callie. How are you?
Hi, Crystal. So lovely to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm glad to have you as part of the team.
Thank you. It's great to be a part of 40 Dandelions. It's been on now for how long has 40 Dandelions been a web journal?
Well, it started in 2020, and we're just rolling along. We're still in startup mode, but we're quickly growing and we're quickly acquiring people to help and serve our vision so that we can help and serve other people's mission and vision as well.
Okay, and just for a brief introduction to what 40 Dandelions is, hopefully we'll get Carrie on to also talk about that more, but from your perspective, talk a little bit about 40 Dandelions and what its mission is.
Well, it's a faith-based organization with its goal and aim to help people transform their lives through products, through our magazine, through other things, and other offerings that we'll have upcoming. But it's a very powerful community, and I very much believe that it's guided and directed by God.
Yes, and I do too. And I know that through Carrie, my friendship with Carrie, I was introduced to it. I was invited to write for it, and it's been a wonderful journey for me as well to be able to express some of my views and perspectives by writing for the 40 Dandelion publication. And I believe the website, if you'd like to plug that, that would be great. What's the website for 40 Dandelions?
Yeah, of course. So it's 40dandelions.com.
All right. So hopefully everybody can join us there, read some of our articles from some of our wonderful contributors, check out our products. And today we're having a conversation with Callie. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What's your story? And what brings you to be a part of this project?
So my name is Callie Goode. I live in Southwest Colorado, and I'm an incomplete quadriplegic with cerebral palsy. And cerebral palsy is kind of a broad term. So in my case, it means that I can't move without major assistance and major help. But despite all of that, I've been able to achieve some very great things behind this desk. And one of those is 40 Dandelions for sure. So a little bit more about my story. When I was 19 years old, I kind of hit a wall in my life, and I kind of got so mentally depleted that I hated myself. Like, I told myself I was ugly and stupid, and I just got in this really horrible mental space. And my best friend at the time, he was the one I confided this in, and it's like, no, you can't do that. It's like, even though you have a disability, he also had a disability. And he's like, no, you can still do great things. So from that point on, I started trying to find the light in the darkness. And when I was 24 years old, around that same time, like, my dad suffered a traumatic brain injury, which took my parents away from me for an entire month, and they were my only sole caregivers. So during that whole experience, I also was undergoing a spiritual awakening, which I didn't understand at the time. But now, of course, I understand it fully. And through that whole process, I did everything I could to resurrect my life. So because of my dad's TBI, I had to quit college. I came home. I was like, what am I gonna do? Like I had no direction. The only thing I had ever done was school. So back in 2012, I met Carrie on a networking forum. We connected because her daughter Addison also has a disability. I ended up selling a product that I had no knowledge of, but she had knowledge of, being in Dallas. So we connected over that. And I actually ended up confiding in her all of my, um, struggles and concerned at that point, and she became someone who has never left my side, and she got me involved in virtual assistant work, and she made sure taught me so much about network marketing and products. So I'm really very grateful for her in my life, and I'm excited to see what this company can do together.
So let me ask you, were you born a quadriplegic? Is this was this a part of your life from the beginning? How does that play into your entire life? And
Yeah, yeah, so I was born at 2 pounds and 10 ounces and 28 weeks old. Um, they said I had oxygen deprivation, which is basically the catch-all term, just like cerebral palsy. It's a catch-all term for for this umbrella of things that can happen. And so that's how I began my life. But I'm still here, and I believe that God has a mighty and divine plan and mission for my life.
so have you always been on a path to like working online and getting into kind of online work and virtual assisting and things like that, or was that something that really was introduced to you by Carrie?
No, that whole section of my life happened after my dad's accident. Like I dabbled in it before, but I never really took it seriously and never really um found the need to do it. It's like one of those things in life, you're never really forced to do something until you're actually forced to do it. So that I believe that was God's, like, um nudge to pay attention, and so I started paying attention to my own life. And not only that, but also the baggages, wounds, and traumas that I had unconsciously incurred because of the somewhat restricted life that I have to live.
So
So
you're very dependent on your mother and in your life. Is that something a companionship that you've always had, that relationship with your mother?
yeah, so I've always been extremely dependent on both of my parents. And as I'm growing as a person, I'm, always looking for ways to actually gain my independence, which over the last 10 years, I worked very hard at that. But
Mhm.
the systems that exist at the moment are not systems that are going to allow me to thrive. So until I find a solution that actually allows me to thrive, this is the best option.
So we were talking before this interview a little bit about your upbringing and what that's like with your mother being a holistic person and organic food and so forth. So what does talk a little bit about that?
So ever since I was born, my mom didn't go the traditional medical route. She went very holistic, very organic. I've been taking every kind of modality of therapy probably existent on the planet. I take a whole host of vitamins, supplements, and sprays and all kinds of other things to keep my body healthy and thriving as much as I can. And I'm very grateful for that aspect of my life. Not all aspects of my life are perfect, but as we go through this transformative time in humanity, I'm more and more grateful for that every single day.
So talk about then how you reached, so you were talking about this awakening that you had, and What did that look like, and what was the catalyst for, you said the catalyst was being kind of alone after your father's TBI, and talk a little bit about that time in your life and what happened to you and what changed.
Well, that time in my life was very scary because my dad was actually flight for life to a level 1 trauma center from our mountain property all the way 4 hours away. And so my mom actually had to have neighbors put me in the truck and like to get me off of the mountain and like away from the cabin so we could actually get help. And so I was just like helpless. Like I remember that night my mom had to drive all the way over to the hospital, and my grandma, who was at the time in her 80s, she stayed with me, and I wasn't even able to go to sleep because like I was so scared something so horrible was gonna happen. And of course, once I lay down or once someone lays me down, like I can't get out of bed. So I just like literally slept in my chair the whole night. And then my grandma finally figured out that I wasn't gonna be able to rest with just her there because I was trying to like make up for her being in her 80s. So we had to call in family from states away. And even though that whole even though I had the physical support, I still wasn't mentally and emotionally supported. So besides my grandma. So like that whole experience just taught me that like I have to be around people that actually know, see, and understand me. And I have to like gain my independence, and I have to do it like from my own soul. So
Mm.
luckily, I'm grateful that God's slowly been peeling back the layers of how to actually do that. And I think 40 Dandelions is certainly part of that plan.
So how did that manifest for you? Did you start going into alternative therapies? Did you start meditating? Did you join groups? I mean, what are the things that you started changing in your life, and what started coming into your life that helped you change and transform?
Well, it was actually very interesting because I had already been working with a intuitive counselor for another unrelated issue, and so this just brought her more into my life. So for the past 10 years, I've been working really hard at unearthing my baggages, wounds, and traumas, like I mentioned before, and that whole experience led me to uncover things about myself that I didn't know, things about my lineage and my trauma and my history that I didn't know that were not revealed to me, or that I realize now that um I have to embrace them in order for those issues to resolve. So there was a whole transformative um experience that went on in that, and I could talk for days about that experience, but for now, yeah, that's the short of it. So I started like meditating, doing a lot of like introspective work, um, joining a lot of groups online, talking to a lot of people, and just kind of sitting within myself. And I realized watching other people that I actually had a gift, because that gift was that I was strapped to this chair. And so I had to look within. Like I couldn't run away from it. Like I couldn't numb it out. I couldn't, like I saw a lot of other people like avoid their spiritual awakening with other people, or maybe substances, or just or food, or and I just had to like go deep within, and I'm still having to go deep within and figure out what's next. I'm always trying to figure out what's next, which is can kind of be a wound, at least from my perspective. But it also, if your brain is so hardwired into like um that rediscovering yourself every day, then it becomes a gift. But it can become, a detriment if you're always like thinking that you have to do another thing. So it depends on what aspect that you really, look at it from.
Hmm. Yeah. And for you, how does that so what does a typical day look like for you in a healthy, I mean, as you feel like you're talking about going on a journey of healing, and what does that look like for you, let's say in a day?
So just daily, like I get up, I sleep really well. As I've gotten deeper into my spiritual awakening, sleep has evaded me, but recently I found these amazing glasses. And I know this sounds weird, but these amazing glasses that like have totally changed my life. So I wear blue light blocker glasses, the heavy duty kind, and then 20 minutes before bed, I actually wear the red light glasses, which help you shut down your brain and sleep. And like when I first started wearing them, I was struggling to sleep. Like I would lay awake all hours of the night not being able to sleep because that's what happens when you're having a spiritual awakening from so many accounts, including my own. And so but those glasses really changed my life. And then I get up, um I do my morning routine, which can be a little bit challenging sometimes. Most of the time, if I'm relaxed and calm, it goes fine. But if I'm all stirred up about something, then it can kind of like spill into the rest of the day. And then, like, I eat a healthy lunch, maybe not, sometimes not crazy healthy, but it's all organic and cooked fresh. And I have like take out food maybe once or twice a week, depending on schedules. And then, like, during the afternoon, at some point, I just lay down and meditate and go somewhere and go into my divine consciousness and go play in that realm. And that's a really freeing experience. And then at night, like, I either eat a snack. Usually it's like fruit or something, like it's very light. Um, and I just do things that bring me joy. Like I don't like I try to stay away from TV at all costs. Or even on a lot of YouTube, like if I do watch YouTube, it's to learn something or to grow some aspect of myself. Um, and then at night, like I go to bed and I just I'm ready to sleep because I'm tired because I'm constantly working on things or trying to improve my life or my credit or build something or learn something or do something or make something. So, but I do a lot and I have a lot of energy to go and do it. There's a bunch of other supplements that I take, like magnesium, vitamin D3, zinc. There's this stuff called transfer factor. There's this spray called um a Hercules spray, which has really changed my life. So lots of great supplements that I take, and I'm blessed to have the support and
Yeah.
um around me to get those.
So those glasses, like red light therapy, like light therapy glasses, or that's what
Yeah,
that is? Okay.
so back when I was like 2 years old, I went to a very renowned a homeopath, and she back in that day she used the color slides to test certain things, back before we had all this technology. But now I understand why like the color is such a big deal, because now we put them in glasses, so the color has some ability to affect our conscious sleep patterns. So I think it's really cool how it came kind of full circle in a way for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Um, so let me ask you now, there are relationships that you're talking about that really started changing your life. And one of them you said was your a friend, a dear friend of yours, and also Carrie. Talk a little bit more about how those like opened you up to certain ideas and things like that.
Well, this friend who opened me up um, was someone who had a similar. Also had cerebral palsy, but he had lived a much more free life because he could take care of himself more than I could. So he got to travel and like, be in band and, and do all these incredible things. So he really opened me up to the possibilities of what my life could actually look like. But at that time, um I related to being like an amoeba. Like I had so much growth work to do that it's taken me a long time to really assume uh, um a really mature, like grounded position. And so I very much relate to people who have long recovery journeys, like in addiction or something, because I understand it. Obviously addiction is not my seed point, but I can there's a lot of commonalities between those stories and mine. So I have a lot of compassion for people in those positions.
Yeah, transformation takes time, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then talk a little bit about how things changed then when you met Carrie and what that propelled your life into. And where were you in your journey when you met her and that came into your life, and how did that continue your transformation?
So where I was when I met Carrie was my dad had just like, you know, gotten out of the hospital like the year before. He had to do like 3 weeks of inpatient rehab at the hospital, and then he did outpatient rehab here in town, and he couldn't drive for so many weeks, and like it was a whole thing, and then he kept it took him a while to recover back to like mostly around confidence, like, oh my God, like I'm not if I walk on something, I'm not gonna fall. And so that was a whole journey. So I remember being so heartbroken that I didn't know Carrie from Adam, but I literally like called her and started crying on the phone to this complete stranger about all aspects of my life. And she's like, well,
But so what was the connection? How did you get introduced to her, and how did you even call her? What was that connection?
so our main connection was her daughter Addison, who also has a rare form of dwarfism. So like I just saw her with Addison in her like in this picture, and I was like, hey, I also, have a disability, and we connected over that.
Was it
I
a forum, or was it some kind of a on Facebook, or was it a
um it was at that time we had met through a forum. It was called the Coffee Shop, and
okay.
it was just a bunch of like all the people were from Texas. Like I remember I was the only one from Colorado, so I was like this unicorn in this field of zebras kind of thing. And so we just kind of clicked, and then I don't even remember how I got her number, to be honest, but like I just remember calling her and just like bawling about everything because I was just so overwhelmed by everything that had gone on. And she was like, I would love to help you. And then one of her daughter's nurses actually suggested that I become a VA, and I had never heard of a virtual assistant before. And so then I started working with Carrie, and then Carrie's neighbor, and then another lady that Carrie knew. And then that's how that all started.
Oh, wow. So that she opened up a path of an opportunity for you there. And then I guess the idea of 40 dandelions came around, right? After that,
Yes,
or
So in 2020 she called me, and this is after years of being in network marketing companies that you work really hard for, and then one day they close their doors and then you have nothing to show for it, or you get involved with certain people, and then you find out certain people are not what you thought they were. And so she called me and she's like, why don't we just like create our own company that we know we're not going to lose, or we're not going to wake up one day and it's all going to be gone. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds great. So um I immediately was like, let's get started. How do we get started? And luckily, being in Dallas, like she has lots of networking resources and people, access to people that I don't have in my little tiny small town. And so she did all the legwork, got everything set up, and we just started rolling. And we've had ups and downs like any company has, but we're still here, and we're finally getting to the point where like I think we can really like blow up from here. So I'm excited.
So, let's talk a little bit about so there are other people that are in similar situations that you are with being quadriplegic or other disabilities or whatever. And um, do you have any kind of advice for facing life in this situation, or how to, or anything that you learned about just, your life, pulling yourself up by the bootstraps that you've done, and just, if you could give any suggestions, any word of encouragement about this life, and what would you hope for others in a sense that are going through
Well,
similar things?
no, I love the question, Crystal, and I appreciate you asking it. So yeah, um it's always been my, since I went through this whole journey of trying to become independent, I realized that there's such little resources out there, and very few people actually know what we need. And for example, like one of the contingencies of me moving out was I needed a roll-in shower, and I was trying to move to Denver, Colorado, which is obviously a major metropolitan area. And through my research and discovery, that there were no apartments with roll-in showers in the entire city. I even called the major rehab hospital, and I'm like, where do you transition your quadriplegics to? And they're like, well, we don't. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't? And they're like, there's no, it all has to be like modified. And then in Colorado, as obviously if you're a quadriplegic, it's very common that you're also on Medicaid. Well, in Colorado, they have different Medicaid rules that say that like if you change something like a shower to a roll-in shower, that you have to change it back once you leave, if if unless you can find someone else that needs that accommodation, but you have to pay for it yourself. Now, in other states, it's different. I know in Texas, it's different, but things like that make it very difficult to actually excel. So between that and the income, limits and structures, like I couldn't be successful because the cost of living was so high, and nobody in the disability community understood that. Like, I want to live and thrive, not just go in some HUD housing apartment just to say that I'm living independently. So those are some of the real life struggles that like really affect this whole situation. And so if I'm giving advice to someone, just like if you have a problem, try to be the creator of the solution to that problem. Because the more I'm talking to people, the more I'm understanding that I'm not the only one that has this problem or could use this solution. So, one of my mentors told me one time, they said, if you happen upon something that you don't have a solution to, that means God means for you to be that solution to that problem. So maybe that's part of your divine calling, is to go into that area, to shine lightness where there's only darkness, and to fix that problem that exists for not only yourself but other people.
Yeah. So you feel that you could be living a much more independent life, should you have more assistance, and in the sense of really infrastructure type things, and uh, that would help you and many in your community as well, right? Because this is,
Yeah,
of course, living with your parents is not going to be a, a solution forever, right? So
yeah, it's just a solution until we find a more creative solution. And the thing that I've come to understand in my own discovery is that there's 7 billion people on this planet. There's always going to be someone that loves me enough to like figure out something. I just have to be the one to ask, because the door is not going to open unless you knock on it. So like I'm learning to ask those really powerful, hard questions, and it's just like my credit, for example. Like 3 years ago, I didn't have credit. Like I didn't even know I needed credit. And then I was like, wow, I need credit. So I went on this whole discovery journey about credit, and I'm learning to ask for help. I'm learning to ask questions. I'm learning to like be that light that shines in that darkness, because you don't know how your story is really impacting someone else. You might be that person that shifts something completely for another person, and you have no idea. But unless you speak out and speak your story, they're not gonna they're not going to have that impact.
yeah, and that is very true. And I'm sure that's one of the reasons we're doing this podcast too, right? To give people an opportunity to speak and see you and see other people as we navigate life, because that is something. And I think that's something really important, is sometimes it's asking the question that opens the door, right? Know to ask the question and what questions to ask, and to ask them out loud, right? Yeah. Okay, so there was a couple things we talked about. So I was interested in, you were talking about things that you love. I had asked you to give me a little list of some things that we wanted to talk about, and you talked about Grant Cardone, is it Grant Cardone
Yeah,
community?
yeah,
Cardon?
yeah.
Yeah.
So the Grant Cardone community, it's a very powerful community that I found in um like June of 2020, because along with so many other people in the world, I, like everyone else, had to hit my own wall. But I had enough conscious awareness around it that I knew I hit my own wall. So I was like, what do I do next? Like, how do I shift? How, like, that's now the question I ask when I feel stuck. And so I knew I needed a nudge, and I had always relied on personal development in the past to help me rewire my brain to think and live a more positive life. So that's where I landed on it. And I did two things. So I bought the UPW virtual ticket, just as something to do, because like everyone else, I was stuck at home. Except for me, I'm used to, being quote unquote stuck. So like the whole pandemic thing wasn't a big thing. It was just like another day at the ballpark to me. But I did have to, find a few creative solutions to keep my mind engaged and thriving. So I did that, and then I also bought the recording of the 2020 GrowthCon, and I've purchased a lot of personal development tools over the years, but never have I ever watched something that and had such a powerful range of emotions, from laughter to tears to like to like ahas. And so I just got so many nuggets from that recording, and I was like, wow, this community is really powerful. And I think it's really powerful because for those of you who may not be familiar, Grant Cardone is someone who was a drug addict up until he was 25, and now is a multi-billionaire. So he really is the pillar of, like, you know, anything that you think you can't do, I did it from the bottom. So, like, you know, take your day and turn it into a 10x movement. So that's really what powered me to do so many things in my life. Like, for those of you who are not familiar, you'll see in upcoming episodes, I'm sure, and other videos where I have products like poetry books, like affirmation cards, and it's all coming out very soon. Well, all of those things were inspired and empowered by Grant Cardone and the 10X community. And this community has impacted my life so much that in September 2020, I actually posted a small bit of my story, and my story went viral in the group. And I had likes and comments from all over the world. So I used it as an ultimate networking opportunity. And I thanked every single one of those people that interacted with my post. And now everyone knows me as, oh, you were that girl that, you know, her post went viral. But that's what a large, powerful, transformative community can do. Because I was literally sitting behind this desk crying because for the first time in a long time, I felt seen, heard, and understood by a bunch of people that know, trust, and believe that anything is possible.
Yes, and anything is possible, right? Yeah, that's the amazing thing of our lives, that we keep the grace that we keep being shown of anything is possible. So tell us in closing, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the things you love, the things that are in your life that make you feel good and supported. You talked about your cats, your horses. Tell us about all of that.
Well, animals are a big part of my life. I was raised as an only child, or I am an only child.
Yeah.
So my animals have certainly taken the place of, you know, like a massive family. And without my cats and my horses, I don't know what I would do. They're such powerful, beautiful creatures. And actually, talking about dreams, it's actually my dream and my hope to someday, and actually Carrie and I've talked about this, I want to open up a therapeutic horse community for people with disability, or like soldiers with post-traumatic stress disorder. And I want to have this community of horses where people can come and love on them and take care of them and help them transform their life. And actually, I think it would be a mutually beneficial thing, because the set of horses that I want to bring in are horses from the racetrack who have who need a transition themselves and are still very viable and worthy of love and affection. And I'm grateful to have had this powerful experience in my own life, because I grew up around racetracks, and my parents have saved many horses from the racetrack and brought them home and turned them into like trail riding horses, team roping horses, that sort of thing. So I've seen that transformation in my own life, and I want to share that with other people.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So yeah, so we should use this platform too to just put the call out there if anybody feels inspired to reach out, and comments and messages about wanting to partner into something like that. Who knows what this podcast can bring forth, what kind of connections, what kind of inspirations, right? There might be other people that have a similar dream, and this is a great opportunity to connect and make that happen. And then I was also going to ask you, Just as far as 40 Dandelions goes, what do you see yourself doing in the next months and years, and how do you see it transforming, and how do you see yourself contributing to that in new ways and with your ideas? And you're obviously an artist and a graphic designer, and you have your inspirational creations. So how do you see that all playing out?
Well, recently I just got certified as a certified holistic life coach. So I really want to use my life coaching skills to help inspire and encourage people to transform their whole life, like the dandelion transforms as it goes through its season. So with that, like I would like to serve, and then of course, like I have a variety of skills and a variety of passions. So like I'm just excited to see where God guides me and leads me, and I'm excited to have a home and a real foundation for everything and anything that I want to create and move forward with, because I think this like the dandelion, not only is every person that we're going to touch going to change, but we're all going to change, just like the dandelion changes. So I'm excited to see what that transformation looks like, and I'm excited to just allow God to guide my hands and show me what I'm supposed to do at every juncture.
Nice. So I look forward to seeing your affirmation cards. I love affirmations, and I just looked forward to seeing some of your creations become part and being offered through 40 Dandelions. I know that there's a plan to a lot of things. It's a brand new publication, so it's still going through transformations, just like the dandelion. And I know there's tons of great ideas coming forth and new projects. So we look forward to all of that. And just in closing, is there anything you'd like to say?
Um, just be inspired and be empowered to be yourself, because there's no one else like you on the planet. So take this opportunity to find courage within yourself to be the most authentic version of yourself, because you are truly needed on this planet, and all it takes is staying up and saying, this is who I am.
That's amazing. Thanks for saying that. And okay, so we'll close here if that's okay with you. And yeah, thanks everybody for joining the podcast. Again, I am Crystal. I'm hosting the 40 Dandelions podcast, and Callie Goode was our guest today, and we look forward to working with her on 40 Dandelions and seeing you check out the publication. If you'd like to leave any comments or contact, we look forward to your comments and suggestions. Thanks, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you for listening to the 40 Dandelions podcast. This episode is sponsored by Wisdom of the Divine, Poetry Honoring Recovery and Healing Through Love by Callie Goode. It's available today on 40dandelions.com. Get $5 off by using promotion code CG111.